All right, so get ready, because today we are taking a deep dive into some seriously mind-bending stuff.
Oh, I love mind-bending stuff.
Yeah, me too. So you sent over some super fascinating material about Hermeticism.
Oh, yeah.
And I gotta say, the way its symbolism seems to align with modern physics is just incredible.
Yeah, it's really quite remarkable how these ancient philosophies sometimes seem to anticipate what science is now revealing.
Right.
Hermeticism, which draws from ancient Egyptian and even older wisdom traditions, offers such a unique perspective on the nature of reality.
It really does. So for anyone who is just tuning in, Hermeticism is built around the teachings of Hermes Trismegistus.
Right.
This figure shrouded in myth and legend.
Right.
And at its core, it explores this idea that the universe is profoundly interconnected.
Mm-hmm.
And by understanding certain principles, we can tap into a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world. Exactly.
And what's particularly intriguing is how some of these hermetic principles resonate with what quantum physics is discovering about the very fabric of reality.
Okay, so you mentioned some surprising connections between Hermetic symbolism and quantum physics.
I did.
And the first one that really caught my eye was this whole concept of the circle and the point.
Okay.
The source material describes the circle as representing the formless whole, this underlying unity of everything, while the point within the circle symbolizes individuation, the emergence of awareness.
You picked up on a key point there. That symbolism aligns beautifully with the quantum physics concept of implicate order.
Oh, wow.
A term coined by physicist David Bohm.
Okay.
Think of it like this. Imagine a perfectly smooth ball of dough.
Okay.
That's the implicate order, this formless potential.
Right.
When you poke it, you create a specific shape, reducing its symmetry, but increasing its information.
I see.
That's like the point within the circle where individual forms emerge from the unified whole.
So that poke is like the role of the observer in quantum mechanics.
Yes.
The one who brings a specific reality into being by making an observation.
That's a great connection. And in Hermeticism, there's a similar emphasis on the observer and the observed.
Right.
The source even quotes Oswald Wirth, who was a prominent scholar of Hermeticism.
Okay.
Describing how the underlying substance of reality isn't a concrete thing, but more like the essence of something.
Wow.
It's like saying there's this potential waiting to be shaped by consciousness.
That's a pretty mind-blowing concept. It makes me think of those moments when you're completely absorbed in something and everything else just fades away.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're stepping outside the normal flow of time and perception.
That's a great example. And it touches on another fascinating parallel between Hermeticism and quantum physics. The idea that the observer isn't separate from the observed.
Okay.
But rather there's this dynamic interplay between the two.
So is it like saying that we're not just passively observing reality, but actively participating in its creation through our awareness? That's a pretty radical idea.
It is indeed. And to illustrate this concept, the source uses the analogy of light. Imagine undifferentiated light. It contains all colors, all possibilities, right? That's like the formless whole, the circle.
Okay.
But when light interacts with objects, it becomes differentiated. We see different colors, shapes, and forms.
Right.
So in a sense, we're not seeing the objects themselves, but rather the light interacting with them.
So we're not seeing the objects themselves, but rather the light interacting with them.
Precisely.
Okay.
And this relates to a core Hermetic idea.
Yeah.
The same light exists both inside and outside, blurring the line between the observer and the observed. There's this constant interaction between our inner awareness and the outer reality we perceive. And in that exchange, something new is born.
That brings us to another interesting point from the source material.
Okay.
This dyad of observer and observed, and how it connects to two key Hermetic concepts, sulfur and mercury.
Yes. Think of sulfur as representing spirit or consciousness, the observer.
Right.
While mercury is associated with the external world, the observed. Yeah. It's like this dance between our inner fire and the ever-changing forms of the world around us.
So if we follow that analogy, overcoming the separation between observer and observed would mean what?
Well,
merging with the light, dissolving the boundaries between ourselves and everything else.
That's a very insightful way to put it.
Yeah.
The source material describes this as the secret of the art, according to Wirth.
Right.
By transcending this duality, by recognizing the interconnectedness of everything, we tap into a different kind of reality altogether.
But if that's possible, why do we experience this separation in the first place? What keeps us locked into this limited view of reality?
Well, Hermeticism has an answer for that too.
Okay.
It describes sulfur, our spirit, as being imprisoned within salt, which represents the body.
Gotcha.
And Mercury, the external world, further encrusts this salt,
Okay.
creating a kind of blockage in our perception.
So it's like we're weighed down, unable to see the bigger picture because of all this. Well, I guess you could call it mental baggage.
That's a good way to think about it. And that's where the process of purification comes in.
Right.
Hermeticism talks about removing these incrustations from the salt to achieve a state of clear perception.
So we need to clear away the mental clutter, the limiting beliefs and assumptions that cloud our vision.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Okay.
It's about cultivating a state of awareness where we can begin to perceive reality more directly, unfiltered by the lens of our conditioning.
It's interesting how the source emphasizes presence, being fully engaged in the moment.
Yes.
It's like that saying, wherever you go, there you are.
That's a perfect example.
Yeah.
And according to Hermeticism, this is the first step on the path of initiation.
Right.
Waking up from the sleep of ordinary consciousness and becoming present to what is.
So that's the starting point. Purifying our perception, clearing away those mental and emotional blockages.
Right.
But once we've done that, how do we actually bridge that gap between the observer and the observed?
That's a great question.
What's next on this journey?
That's where things get even more fascinating.
Ooh, I like that.
We'll delve into the next stage of the Hermetic journey
Okay.
after a short break.
Stay tuned.
Stay with us.
We'll be right back.
We'll be right back after this. So before the break, we were talking about that first step in the Hermetic process,
Right.
purifying our perception,
Right.
removing those layers of mental gunk that cloud our vision.
Yeah, and it's important to remember that this isn't a one-time thing.
Right.
Cleaning a window and being done with it.
Right.
It's an ongoing process
Yeah.
of cultivating awareness and presence.
Right. And the source material talks about the importance of developing energy and vitality.
Yes.
Otherwise, we risk slipping back into those habitual patterns of thinking and perceiving.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me think about those times when you're totally absorbed in an activity.
Yes.
Maybe you're, painting, writing, or having a deep conversation.
Right.
And you completely lose track of time
Yeah.
because you're so present and energized.
Exactly. Hermeticism places a lot of emphasis on cultivating that inner fire.
Which is symbolized by sulfur.
Yeah.
It's about bringing that vibrant energy and awareness into every aspect of our lives.
So this is where we move to that second stage of initiation.
Okay.
Uniting sulfur and mercury, the observer and the observed
Right.
in our everyday experiences. It's about bridging that gap and moving towards a more unified way of being.
Precisely.
Mm-hmm.
And the source you provided uses a great analogy to illustrate this.
Oh, cool.
Imagine a radio receiver tuning into specific frequencies
Okay.
from a vast spectrum of waves.
Right.
In a similar way, we can tune our perception to access a wider range of possibilities that are always present, but often hidden beneath the surface of our everyday awareness.
I love that analogy. It's like we're unfreezing reality, melting away those limitations that keep us locked in a particular way of seeing things.
Exactly.
And speaking of unfreezing, the source introduces this fascinating framework of the 4 elements as a way to understand this transformative process.
Yes. The 4 elements, earth, water, air, and fire, are not just physical substances in Hermeticism.
Right.
They represent different stages of perception and transformation.
Okay.
Imagine yourself as a stone,
Okay.
feeling grounded and immovable.
Gotcha.
Then shift your awareness to feel the fluidity of water,
Okay.
adapting to every situation.
Yeah.
Next, become like air dissolving boundaries and expanding your awareness to encompass a wider perspective.
Wow.
Finally, embody the energy of fire,
Uh-huh.
burning away limitations and illuminating the world with your inner light.
That's a beautiful way to describe it. It's like we're using these elemental archetypes to shift our perception and experience reality in a completely new way.
And the source you shared connects this to the idea of cooling down from that formless whole.
Right.
The implicate order
Yeah.
to the more defined, tangible reality we experience.
Right.
It's like water vapor in a cloud,
Okay.
condensing into water droplets and then freezing into ice.
Right.
As we move from a state of pure potential to the concrete world, there's a decrease in symmetry, but an increase in information and organization.
So it's like we're tracing that process in reverse, moving from a complex, defined state back towards that cloud of infinite possibility.
I'm starting to see how this all ties together.
You're getting it. And here's another interesting connection.
Okay.
The source draws a parallel between these shifts in perception and the transformations that can happen in hypnotherapy.
Oh, wow.
It's like we're using these techniques to access different levels of awareness.
Right.
breaking free from the frozen reality of our ordinary perception.
That makes a lot of sense. But if the goal is to experience this interconnectedness, this unfrozen reality,
Yeah.
how does that actually play out in our daily lives? Do we need to walk around in a constant state of elemental meditation?
That's a great question. The source material emphasizes that the real work happens when we bring this awareness into our everyday experiences.
Okay.
It's about tuning into our senses, noticing the subtle ways in which we construct our reality through our perceptions. It's not about escaping the world.
Right. But rather about experiencing it more fully, more consciously.
So it's about seeing the world with fresh eyes, being present in each moment, and noticing the interconnectedness of everything around us.
Precisely. And this leads us to the third and final stage of the Hermetic initiation.
Okay.
Becoming one with the light, fully integrating that awakened inner fire of sulfur.
And I have a feeling this is where the gaze comes in, right? The source mentions Hermetists using mirrors for transformation and talks about the effects of opening and defocusing the gaze.
Yes. And this is where the physiological and the symbolic beautifully intertwine.
Interesting.
When we soften our gaze, allowing our eyes to defocus, it can lead to blurred vision, shifting sensations, and even access to what's known as the dark focus,
Okay.
a state of relaxed attention, where our visual field seems to darken at the periphery. This technique is also used in hypnotherapy and various spiritual traditions.
It's fascinating how something as simple as changing how we look can have such a profound impact on our perception.
It really is. And it connects to the idea of letting go of our fixed points of attention, opening up to a wider field of awareness.
Yeah.
It's like stepping back from the map to experience the territory directly.
But how does this connect to that final stage of initiation, becoming one with the light? What does that even mean?
Well, think about it this way.
Okay.
Our gaze is how we gather information,
Right.
how we measure the world.
Right.
And in doing so, we shape our reality.
Okay.
By softening and defocusing our gaze, we're releasing those fixed points of attention,
Yeah.
allowing for a more expansive, fluid experience.
So are we essentially returning to that state of undifferentiated light, that formless whole symbolized by the circle, but now we're doing it consciously with awareness?
That's a great way to put it. It's about integrating that awakened inner fire of sulfur with the external world of Mercury to achieve a state of unity and wholeness.
This is all so mind-blowing, but I have to ask, what does this actually look like in practice? How does someone fix their sulfur and become one with the light? Is there some secret ritual or technique?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
The source material hints at this,
Okay.
but doesn't provide a clear-cut answer.
Right.
Perhaps that's part of the mystery, something we have to discover through our own exploration and practice.
Okay, now I'm even more intrigued. But before we get too lost in the mysteries of Hermetic initiation, I want to touch on one last point from the source material.
Okay.
This idea of the adept having a foot in two worlds. What did they mean by that?
What's fascinating about that concept is it suggests that true mastery isn't about transcending the material world or escaping reality. It's not about becoming some sort of detached, ethereal being.
Right.
It's about being fully present and engaged in the world while simultaneously recognizing a deeper level of reality.
I see.
It's like seeing through the illusion of separateness and experiencing the interconnectedness of everything, even while going about your daily life.
That makes me think of that quote from the source you shared. The key for returning to the knowledge of the whole is in the awareness of ourselves. It's like our own awareness is the bridge between these two worlds.
You've hit the nail on the head. It's not about rejecting the physical world or our human experience, but about transforming our relationship to it.
Okay.
The source suggests that practices like opening the gaze, cultivating bodily awareness, and working with the elements can help us bridge these two worlds, allowing us to move through life with a deeper sense of connection and purpose.
You know, as we've been talking, I've been picturing the symbol of the human being as a cross, with the horizontal line representing the physical dimension and the vertical line representing awareness.
I see.
It's like we have this incredible opportunity to connect heaven and earth, the material and the spiritual, through our own consciousness.
That's a beautiful image. And perhaps that's the ultimate invitation of Hermeticism, to recognize that we're not just passive observers in the universe, but active participants, co-creators of our reality. By cultivating awareness and understanding these principles of interconnectedness and transformation, we unlock a world of infinite possibility within ourselves and the world around us.
This deep dive has been quite a journey. Thank you so much for guiding us through this intricate and fascinating world of Hermeticism and quantum physics. I have to say, I'm feeling incredibly inspired to explore these practices and see where they lead.
It's been my pleasure. And remember, this exploration is just the beginning.
Right.
The real magic unfolds when we take these ideas and apply them to our own lives, experimenting, discovering, and ultimately transforming ourselves and the world around us.
You've given us so much to think about today. Thanks for joining us on this incredible deep dive, and we'll see you next time for another adventure into the unknown.